Isn't this a sports show?
You just want to see my underwear right now?
No. I'm now intrigued.
I got some Deadpool undies. Look at my butt, you guys.
Almost entirely.
I was just reminding the audience, we don't know anything, so we're talking about Pokemon.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
All right, we're doing this show live from the bottom of a swimming pool, and oh man, the chlorine levels are perfect.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Sorry, it's 2019. I don't Netflix and chill. I listen to AES and drink Hennessy.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810.
Today we got a little bit of a gift via the internet, via some audio that we will play in mere moments, because there's a lot of different stuff that we could start off the show with. You know, eventually I'm going to have some sort of reaction to whatever happens in the Suns game that's happening right now. Rudy and I just enjoyed Beard's only kind of knowing what was going on. That one's really just because I had to acknowledge how Rudy had just said that, Beards. It's all right. We're all moving. A lot of moving parts at the beginning of the show. I'm being a diva.
You'd also said, hey, Beards, can you change it to NBA TV? And you're like, oh, no, wait, I have to do it because of the Royals.
Listen.
I mean, to be also fair, though, I also didn't have Rudy in queue, so I couldn't hear what he was saying.
Yeah, and that's something that somebody else is in control of, probably, other than you. We got to stop starting the show off with such negative energy. I really don't want that to be where the show goes.
It's no negativity.
But we'll have a little bit of that going on around the show, and at 9 tonight we'll go very kind of heavy back into the Chiefs' potential draft board as Lyle Graversen of Arrowhead Addict will join us. He's got some late round guys that he really likes, and then of course we're gonna have another version of the similar conversations about the tackle class and about the edge and the linebackers and the receivers and the tackles and all that stuff. We'll get to all of that in just a minute. But the thing today that I was just so tickled by was it's something that serves as a brilliant little snapshot, I think, of NFL draft processes right now, where I don't want to tell you my opinion about it. I want you to hear from it. I want you to hear it here. This is from the Eagles press conference today, and Nick Sirianni, their new head coach, was talking about scouting players, getting ready for the draft. Fine-tuning their board, the meetings they had. I believe he ended up taking a question. There was something along the lines of like, "Hey, what are you trying to figure out in these meetings? What are you guys talking about? What are you doing?" And in this clip here, he tells you a few things that he has done with some potential future Philadelphia Eagles in preparation for the NFL, in preparation for what the future may look like in Philly. Here is one of the things that Nick Sirianni is doing with these prospects.
And I'll tell you, I think some of you guys are wondering, like, what game? We didn't go earth-shattering on these games, right? I played a couple of them at rock, paper, scissors, right? That was as easy as that. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's see how competitive you are. I'm competitive. I'm going to be talking trash to him. Did you talk trash back to me? Right? Jeopardy. There's different ways to do it. It looks a lot of different ways. But our coaches got so creative with this. Like Jeff Stoutland, Brian Johnson. Like they did just such, Aaron Moorhead. They all did a great job, right? Tracy Rocker, Jeremiah Washburn. They all did a great job of just figuring out how to compete. Because everyone's compete looks a little different. Like if I get up there, I play them rock, paper, scissors. They got a little more creative than I did at times. So it was awesome, though, because it did anything you compete at. When you compete with somebody that's competitive, they're going to go at you no matter what game you're playing. Let's you can play rock, paper, scissors when we get in person together.
All right. That would be great.
Okay.
I like the last bit just to hear the reporter go, yeah, all right. Okay, yeah, that'd be great. All right, Nick. Here's why I think it's not just funny. It is funny, though. We have to, here, you know what? I'm going to do this in stages, okay? Here, I'll tell you what my first thought was. My first thought was yesterday we played a clip of Chris Sims talking about how analytics sometimes doesn't get things right and it doesn't account for everything. And sometimes you got to go with your gut. And for me, I heard that, and then today I heard this clip from Nick Sirianni and thought, oh, is that what your gut's figuring out? Is your gut just seeing what they do if they're competitive enough in rock, paper, scissors? Because I'll tell you what, I know that, like Patrick Mahomes, everyone says, is an absolute competitionaholic. It doesn't matter. You could be playing rock, paper, scissors, and that dude's going for the jugular every time on everything. I get it. I also think there are probably people on planet Earth that are really competitive when playing football who might not go for the jugular against an NFL head coach in a game of rock, paper, scissors, but you know what? You know what? That's all fine. I think it is outstanding as a snippet, and really as a snippet of being here on April 21st, right? Man, we've been so deep in this draft talk for the last couple of weeks, last several weeks for sure. And then really in some ways, last couple of months. I think the last month especially. And I like that. Like I think I've enjoyed this draft process more than I've enjoyed it. At least going back to when we were mostly looking at quarterbacks and the Chiefs ended up taking Patrick Mahomes. But in terms of the actual process, like I've gotten a little bit deeper into the classes of tackles and edge rushers and receivers and stuff like that. I've got opinions that could fill out a big board, which has never been the case because I don't watch college football nationally with quite that microscope that you need to be able to do that in January. But being able to follow the work of all these guys that have like Dane Brugler at The Athletic and his beast draft guide, like being able to look at that and then being able to see what Seth is seeing and then being able to talk to some guys around the Chiefs and around the league a little bit, like you get a little bit of a better feel, a continually more growing perspective on what all these guys may do and what these position groups look like, and I've really enjoyed that. But also, if the draft started tomorrow, I'd be tickled because I don't know how many more times I can tell you that we're all going to fall in love with Tevin Jenkins and he's going to go 20th. Will the Chiefs take Samuel Cosmi at 31? Man, I don't know. We're so close. We're going to find out so soon. And I am ready for the Chiefs to take one of any dozen offensive linemen at 31. And as soon as that happens, I'm going to already have my opinion pretty well set because we've done the work and we've gone through it. And you listening right now, if you've been here for the last couple of weeks, even the last couple of shows, if you're here for Seth's segment last night, you are out here ready to pound the table for Stone Forsythe. I didn't know Stone Forsythe was 2 months ago. I don't think I've seen Penei Sewell play a game live. I'm not watching Oregon at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night during football season.
He also didn't play this year.
That's true.
He opted out.
2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Because his tape was him as I think the last tape he had was as a 19-year-old. Maybe he was 20. He's
2 years ago,
he's very young.
Yeah.
And his tape is very young.
The 19-20 season? Yeah. The 2019 to 2020 season. That was the last time he played.
Open, so I don't know how old he is. All right, this is here we go. This is exactly where we end up.
Wiki.
He's 20. So yeah,
Yep. So yeah, he would have been. Dude, he's crazy young.
That's the thing, man. He's gonna be a top 5 or 6 probably pick.
He is going to be playing in the NFL because his birthday's not until October.
20? Yeah.
At 20. Wow.
He's gonna probably be a starting left tackle at age 20. That's Penei Sewell, an absolute animal of a man, going to be the number 1 tackle in this draft class, barring something really surprising. Although they did say, I think it was Ben Albright, tweeted about how some teams have Slater 1, whatever. That's fine. Penei Sewell is going to be an absolute lock top 10 pick. Very well could go top 5. And he was born in the year 2000. Beards and Rudy both staring at their screens, not at each other, not at me, both simultaneously shook their head.
It's wild, man.
He's a little bit younger than my younger brother by a few months.
He's going to be a starting left tackle in the NFL.
What are we doing?
What month is his birthday?
October 9th, 2000.
He's only about 4 months older than my sister.
Can she play tackle? Chiefs could use one.
For one possession.
For one ball possession or for one snap? Because
one snap.
Okay. I think my brother could probably give him one good rep at guard. You know, he's thick. Like he'll get run over slowly, right? I don't know how quick his feet are though.
Quick little side note: Jayhawk Slant has tweeted out Marcus Garrett is moving on from Kansas.
Oh wow, there you go. Okay, well we can pivot to that.
Not a huge surprise, I don't think, but I think this was obviously what was expected, but it's official now. KU has released a statement. Marcus Garrett is will be moving on.
All right, well, let me read this here. Good breaking news, Rudy.
You're welcome.
Do you have the statement open?
I do.
Cool, because my computer did the thing that it did a couple days ago.
Okay.
And it was a black screen then a white screen. So if we could hear the statement this is the statement
this
on
is
KU's website about
Yes.
Marcus Garrett going to the NBA.
From Bill Self. Marcus is a great player, and I would have loved for him to return for another season, but the reality is this is the best decision for him. We fully support that. I believe what he accomplished in his career here at KU has put him in a great position to make this step. To see the progress he made over his 4 years, including being named the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, makes me excited to see him at the next level. He has meant a lot to our program and our fans, and we all know he will continue to make us proud.
It's kind of interesting, right? Because we brought this up with Scott Chasen just a couple of days ago. Yeah, my device is running low on memory. I know, it's just Chrome. Ooh, blue screen. Blue screen of death. Blue screen of death.
That's sad.
That's good. That's what I want right now.
I like that they give you the sad emoji.
Yeah, well, and I'm feeling sad.
Because it is sad.
It certainly is. Okay, well, I'm going to deal with that while we deal with this. When we talked to Scott about this just a few days, I think it was Friday last. Yeah, it was Friday. I asked him about Marcus Garrett because I think he's the guy from this class that's of sort of the class of guys that have an extra year of eligibility. That are they going to be tempted to make another run back to continue to be the star, the big man on campus or whatever in Kansas, or are they going to go try to make it at the next level? And I think we all know pretty well. Marcus Garrett also wrote this post here is written by Marcus Garrett. This is kind of interesting. We probably won't read this full thing. It's pretty long.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have that popped up on my.
KU Hoops have tweeted that out. That's pretty cool actually. It's sort of a Players Tribune style
he
piece
might have,
by
and
Marcus.
I just might have missed that.
By Marcus Garrett. We gotta stop talking over each other this much.
I feel like I follow KU Hoops. It doesn't matter. I'm just now intrigued why I didn't see the tweet.
Well,
yeah,
there.
here it is. Here it is. Yep, I see it.
You could have taken my word for it being there. Yeah.
That
was a choice that you had.
It was. I guess I was just looking for essentially like a screen. You know what I mean? Like an actual like an image, I guess. But this makes sense because, like you said, he wrote a.
I don't do social media for KU Twitter, so I do not know why they made the choices that they did.
Oh no, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just like a lot of times like a statement. I just assumed it was a paragraph statement, and so like that would be the photo.
It's like a Players Tribune article.
Yeah, so I understand why it wasn't in like one photo on a tweet because it wouldn't fit.
Right, because it is a full piece that we may read part of it here soon, depending on sort of the status of a lot of my technology. But whenever we talked to Scott about Marcus Garrett on Friday, he said he thought that he would probably be moving on to the NBA. Mm-hmm. And it gave me a little bit of pause, more so than for a couple of the guys who are testing the waters, who aren't officially, fully piecing out. I don't know that Ochai Agbaji can really raise his NBA stock with another year in college. I'm not totally sure that makes complete sense. Marcus Garrett is going to have a tough road to becoming a guy that's getting actual NBA minutes. His defense will be obviously his path into an eventual professional role. But what Scott said was, this is just the thing that Marcus Garrett wants to do. Mm-hmm. He is ready to go on to the next level. He could come back and be a candidate for Big 12 Player of the Year again, and certainly be the best defender in the conference, and could do a lot of great things for KU for another season. But ultimately, whenever you want to head to the NBA and you've spent all this time in college, even though he had that chance to take one more year to come back to KU, it's impossible to fault a guy for that. I wonder what he's envisioning the next step looking like, where he's hoping to go in the draft, and and what his next few steps will look like.
Yeah, and like obviously, I'm sure the goal is to play in the NBA next year. Marcus Garrett's going to play professional basketball for a long time,
Right.
and he's going to make good money doing it. It may not be solely in the NBA. He may be a guy who plays, just spends a lot of time overseas, right? Like, and maybe maybe he's able just to hold on to a roster spot at the end of an NBA bench for a long time as well, being a defensive guy. Point being, like. I think we forget about this sometimes where it's like, oh, why would you go pro? You're not going to make it in the NBA. A lot of these guys make hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars playing overseas.
Yeah.
Like Keith Langford made millions of dollars playing basketball overseas. Like Marcus Garrett, worst case, I feel like is going to play, it has a chance of spending the next 20 years of his life playing professional basketball somewhere in the world and probably make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This is not really where I end up most of the time. So this isn't really a take so much as just thinking out loud. But if you're gonna go overseas and play at some point, but you have an opportunity to take one more year and to be on a great team as a great player, a veteran leader on it, I imagine that made the choice somewhat difficult at the very least. But you're right, Rudy. Mm-hmm. If you have a chance to play basketball for no money or play basketball for a good amount of money, and you want to fight to get yourself a spot in the NBA, and again, to be an absolute defensive shutdown guy, I don't know offensively where he's going to fit on the next level. Beards, I'll take, if you've got a theory on that,
I was
going to
say there's the one comparison that I have is Andre Robertson.
Is this mic a little loud?
No, the fan's
It's
a
a
little
little
loud.
quiet to me.
It just, honestly, my ears are hurting, but it's not really your
That's
fault.
also fair.
It's probably this headphone jack.
Andre Robertson's the guy that you can compare him to as like a high-end talent, where Robertson was an elite all-world defender, bigger than Marcus Garrett is. He's about 6'7" or so, but had literally no jump shot to speak of, and was like a 40% free throw shooter. There are guys where you can do that. Now, Robertson's probably one of the more high-end at that level of just literally zero offense and all defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's had injuries the last couple of years that have really destroyed what career he had. But like, that's the comparison that you can make. That's semi-foreseeable.
Is that, with him being a little bit smaller, does that role exist right now in the NBA that he'll be entering? Like, is that, because that feels like
he's also a better ball handler than Robertson ever was, though.
That's
also
fair. It feels a little bit like a dinosaur position, a little bit like a dying breed, where if you can't score in the pros, you're going to have a pretty hard time demanding playing
if you're
time.
good enough on defense,
But if you're outstanding, and he's been outstanding and versatile,
then there will be a spot for you.
yeah, I hope that's true.
A player that I remembered I was with the Nuggets, and guy who's who maybe he becomes this guy. Maybe this is a little bit because
Are you going to say Dante Jones?
I was going to say Dante Jones. Yeah.
Wait a second. How
Dante
did you know?
Jones might be a little bit. I mean, he wasn't a great shooter in the NBA. He shot 33% from three, but that's also not terrible. So he might be a little bit better. But like, he obviously didn't do a lot of shooting in general. Like that wasn't his thing. He was a defensive guy, and you know what he did? He was on the Nuggets team that went to the Western Conference Finals, and oh boy, did he shut down Chris Paul in that playoff series.
He said. Shut down.
Down Chris Paul.
Really blew through the U there. Shut down Chris Paul. My laptop doesn't have the mouse on the screen currently.
That's good.
Is that good? That seems good, right? The other thing, and again, with the sort of the certainty that Scott had on Friday that this is where this was headed for Marcus Garrett, he even just tweeted the phrase "as expected."
Mm-hmm.
This isn't catching KU by surprise by any means, and they've had a very busy offseason already, and that will only continue at this point. But I do wonder what that will mean for the 2021-22 KU basketball team, because it's kind of wild to think about, because this year's team was in so many ways ultimately disappointing on several levels, while being what would have been a great success for a Mizzou team or whatever. Sorry, you got Mizzou fans, you didn't need that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. But it was sort of a KU disappointment, which you have to have grading on an incredible curve. They are going to have a significant number of their best pieces returning, and they're also adding another infusion of talent. But I do wonder, the other thing, man, is we talk about the defense, and I don't know if there are a lot of players anywhere in basketball that you lead with their defense, which again might be an indictment on the other side a little bit, but mostly
that
it's that
aren't big men.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. But even then, I would say that what you're doing with them around them offensively ends up being the leading point. Like, even for a guy like David McCormick, right? Like, he's not he's not one of the modern NBA scoring big men aliens that's all of a sudden just like super comfortable for a corner three or whatever. But you still have to. For me, the conversation typically ends up being around how that guy is used within the construct of the offense or how the offense works through him. For Marcus Garrett, the defense is the first and second and third thing that you talk about, because it's not just that he's excellent at it against other guys his size, but it's that he can play up, he can play faster, he can play against he can literally guard 1 through 5. Now, eventually, you're going to see on the edges of that the weaknesses if you have to play super duper small ball, which KU's had to do several times over these last couple of years. But I always think maybe the third thing on that list is how freaking much Bill Self loves Marcus Garrett. And I mean, it's talking about him at every turn. It's him as a leader, and it's him being the guy that can shut down pretty much anybody on pretty much anything defensively. There is a tremendous value to that. And I mean, I'm kind of curious to see if Bill Self will have another guy that steps up and kind of fills that role. If that's going to be something that they lack this year, I don't know. I'm absolutely randomly spitballing, but kind of curious to see. I don't know if there's a guy on the roster right now that you think of. If Ochai does in fact end up coming back for another year, I'm curious how that'll impact what KU hopes to do in 2021-22. Rudy, you got anything? I saw you're distracted by the iPad. I know what you're distracted by, but we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, that I figured we were just going to pass on by.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing on KU, though.
I nothing else. I mean, I think my guess is the next guy in terms of like Bill Self usually always has like a guy on
That's
the team,
kind of
right?
thing. Is
like
there going to be a guy? But Ochai hasn't really been there.
It seems like the next likely might be DeJuan Harris, just the way he talks about him, right? Like,
yeah.
DeJuan Harris is not going to be a, he's not going to be the Frank Mason, Sharon Collins type of point guard. Like, he's definitely going to be more of a Marcus Garrett type, where it's more defense. I do think he'll be a better facilitator of the offense than Marcus Garrett was, right? Like a more traditional point guard. He's not going to, and maybe it ends up being, I'm trying to think of a good, I can't really think of a good comp for it, like that KU's had, because again, he won't be the scorer that Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, Sharon Collins was. It'd be closer to an Aaron Miles, but I obviously don't expect that kind of creativity, because Aaron Miles is, he's one of the greatest point guards in Big 12 history in terms of facilitating offenses, but it'd be, I guess, more in that style.
Devon Dotson is just too damn fast.
Yeah, where it's more defense and passing than it is scoring.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah. Right, that's a good call.
But DeJuan Harris feels like he's got the chance to be the next guy for Bill Self.
I've got my cursor back on my laptop, and I've also got this the article that Marcus Garrett wrote here. I'll give you just sort of the sort of preamble, and then I'll tell you everybody who goes on to thank. But I'll give you a quick snippet of Marcus Garrett. He wrote this. You can go into the full thing on the KU website, kuathletics.com. He wrote it up, Rock Chalk Forever by Marcus Garrett. There's only one bad part about being a basketball player at Kansas. You know what that is? Saying goodbye. I always knew I was going to have to do it. I saw Devontae and Svi do it when I was a freshman. I saw Doak and Dot do it last year. It doesn't matter when you leave this place. It's the worst part because it's so special. I'm not leaving without letting you all know how thankful I am. Because before I came to school here, I had probably left Texas twice in my lifetime. When I got here, everything was new to me, and from the moment I walked on campus, you all took me in, no questions asked. You treated me as family. You made the transition from high school to college easy. I cannot thank you all enough for that. From day one, I was part of the Jayhawk family, my second family. Now, I never would have met you all, and I never would have been a part of your family if it weren't for my family. And he goes on, he writes about his mom, his uncle Matt, his uncle Nakia. He talks about his brothers on the team. Talks about Coach Self. Those are just sort of all the subheads, and then addresses the last section to Jayhawk Nation as a whole. Again, if you want to read the whole thing, I'm not going to go through it all here on the show tonight, but there you go. Little news for your your Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
We will take a break. I'm going to see if I can get my Chrome tabs all opened back up again, or maybe you're hearing live on air me being forced into a Firefox lifestyle that doesn't eat quite so much memory, because it was literally the only thing open on my computer. And listen, it's well established that I'm a 19 tab kind of dude, but it was only one window. And it's just a lot. It's just, my computer's been shouting me down a lot recently. So we'll see how that goes. I also feel like I had a larger point that I was getting to on the Eagles draft plans. We also still haven't talked about the Super League, and I want to make fun of Rudy about something that he doesn't even know is on the Google Doc, I don't think.
Boy.
So we'll see where we land whenever we come back. Again, though, the news of the night, Marcus Garrett is, in fact, going to the next level. We'll test the waters in the NBA, but is, in every detail there, is officially leaving Kansas, not doing the 1 foot in, 1 foot out deal, it seems.
Quick, more breaking news, and actually this is not breaking. This was tweeted out this morning, but I just did not see it. So I imagine, I don't know if you know this, Danny Manning will be joining Mark Turgeon's coaching staff as an assistant at Maryland. So there was obviously he obviously wanted, KU has an AD. He was obviously interested in the AD job, but he is going to be the next assistant at Maryland.
Boy, I wish I could remember the thing that Beard said was breaking news a couple weeks
See,
You may
I
have
saw
seen
that
that.
too, and I was going to say that, but then I went, oh, it was 8 hours ago. They'll make fun of me for that.
But see, I didn't know that. I didn't know if you know it. That's why I brought it up. I was like, hey, I don't know if you know this.
What
I'll
did
put it out
Beard,
there.
what did Beard say that we had just previously addressed that day?
Was it Christian Bishop?
Maybe,
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was it. It wasn't as funny now that I remember it even. I think it's both very good and very sad, Beards, that is the arithmetic that you're doing before you bring something up. I think it was because I was mid-interview, and I think you went into talking about Christian Bishop transfer to Texas.
That's what it was.
And
It was
we and we had talked
Yes,
about
your
it
chef.
briefly at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. It was in the ears. It was.
Whoa, hold on. Here's more breaking news. Did you guys see who's joining Mark Turgeon's staff? Wow.
Did you hear Bill Self got a lifetime contract?
It's not really lifetime.
We still haven't
Scott.
talked about Sam Darnold being traded, you know? It's not really breaking news, but
I've got some Jalen Rose
Is it no longer
audio.
a Panther?
we should get to the Bobby Witt at some
It's
point.
about
Not
Kevin
today.
Durant.
That one's a deeper cut. Those are some deeper cuts for the
Deep cut.
true day ones.
See about this Devin Booker.
Did he do something? I was gonna pull it up on my computer, but then my computer
Yeah.
imploded
You're
onto
good.
itself.
You're good.
We're good?
You're good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Double finger wag. Oh, you love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. All right, there we go.
Ooh, breaking news. Marcus Garrett's leaving for the NBA.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco
Smoke just started coming out of a CPU. There's a computer on fire, I'm pretty sure.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
If you happen to just be tuning in, Marcus Garrett, news of the night, officially going to the NBA and in the next level, and we'll see where he ends up fitting in, but hopefully he ends up having an illustrious NBA career, leaving KU with one more hole to fill, but they've added a lot of talent over the course of this offseason already, and been a pretty interesting series of events for KU basketball. We'll dig more into that, if I'm being honest, like post-draft, because the show's booked out the remainder of this week, and I don't know, maybe we give Nick Schwerdt a little surprise call tomorrow or something, but I want to talk about a couple other things here tonight. Also, Human Torch on Twitch said, "I am here. The streak continues." I would love to know, Human Torch, how long the streak has been going, because I'm wondering. It's been an impressive streak on the Twitch. So I want to give proper props there if that becomes necessary. This was I didn't actually expect to end up talking about Suns Sixers a tremendous amount on the show tonight. Suns did win, though, 116-113. Best team in basketball, pretty much. I'm going to say it. MVP Chris Paul.
Definitely not true.
But the Suns were up 3. Here's a brief KU connection for you, too, if you really need that in your life. Up 3. Chris Paul has a free throw with like 0.8 seconds left. And he misses it to go up 4. You know, why do MVPs do the things they do? Hard to say.
He misses it and they don't go up 4.
He misses a free throw that would have put them up 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were up 3.
Mm-hmm.
And Joel Embiid goes up and grabs it. And he's got, one heave to tie the game, full court shot. If you've not seen this clip yet, I will do my very best to explain it, but you should go find it. Because here's the crazy thing. So Embiid grabs it off the rim, and his feet barely touch the ground, and the ball's going the other way now. The crazy thing about just the release here is that he's holding the ball for 0.7 seconds. The ball's
I'm
out of
going
his
to
hand
work
at
to put
0.1.
it up on the video stream as well.
I think that might cause the stream to implode, but you can do that.
We'll
if
see
you
what
like.
it does.
Yeah, go for it.
Embiid, though, the crazy thing about this is he catches. I'm doing it like the Zapruder film right now. He catches the ball above his head, and and it comes down to his ear. He does not cock back any further than that. Put your hand by your ear and imagine you've got a basketball in it. You're essentially at that point doing a shot put. Now, you might feel like you might be able to shot put something a decent little distance, but Embiid is, I would say, 4 feet behind the Suns' free throw line here, going the other direction. The ball is at his ear, and he just absolutely yeets it. Not only in a perfect flow of motion and on a perfect line, but this ball flies down, hits the backboard, hits the inside of the front of the rim, but the ball was simply thrown too hard. I've paused it right here, where I swear that ball is the majority of the ball is in the rim here, and then it bounces back out, hits the back of the rim, pops out, game's over.
Bleacher Report has tweeted out like a longer video with all the angles and like in slow motion and stuff. Yeah, it's worth watching. And then Embiid just like falls down to the ground. Like, I can't believe I missed that.
It's just it is a truly outrageous near shot. The Athletics tweeted out. Now that video is going to be all over the place now because the NBA's tweeted it out, and it's you can see in a nice HD version. It's incredible to get that shot off and on the line, and it so nearly goes in.
So close.
Booker's just standing under the basket on the other end. I'm not 100% sure why. I don't think you can block that. I think that'd be goaltending pretty clearly. So I'm not sure, but he's just down there for some reason, and he's in the shot. And boy, if that would have gone in, Booker's reaction would have probably been an all-timer. But Suns win, which means that America wins, the world wins, the sport of basketball wins. It's good for everybody, really.
It's not bad.
It's good. I'm saying this is maybe the best thing that's ever happened in the history of sports. Can I ask you about something, Rudy, that I need you to pretty much take the stand for here?
Yeah, sure.
So I saw this tweet a couple days ago. Wanted to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
A quote from, if you don't know, Rudy is a Kentucky graduate.
Yes.
I always ask it as a question.
I was, you know how I showed you some of the stuff I found today while packing up stuff, like opening up boxes. Because like while I'm in the process of moving, I'm also trying to get rid of a lot of stuff. I want to downsize.
Absolutely.
So I'm going through boxes. Do I need this? Do I need why do I have 5 little iPhone boxes? Why am I keeping every box of every electronic I've ever purchased?
Yep.
I don't know.
No.
So I'm getting rid of quite a bit of them. Keeping some. Getting rid of a lot.
All right, hold on, really quick timeout. I'm sorry to interrupt you because I know that now I'm doing the thing
fine.
that I yell at you for doing to me.
No, you're good.
You're not getting rid of that Carmelo plaque, are you?
No.
Okay, so at the very least, you can bring that sucker and we'll put it in the office. That's
Yeah,
fine. They can watch over us. Rudy's a Nuggets fan. Beards, can I get a quick 2-word heat check on how you feel about Carmelo Anthony?
Very good player.
That was 3 words.
Very good.
That's 2. There you go.
Yeah. I would say excellent. Yeah, that's fine.
I like Melo a lot.
Yeah.
So
Hall of Fame.
welcomed into the office if necessary.
Yeah,
honestly, like
sure.
I don't know.
I like those Nuggets teams.
I'm not totally for sure what I was going to do with it. I probably isn't. It can be hung up on my wall, but it's not something that personally isn't necessarily something I want up on my wall. But I thought maybe I'd get like one of those
It should
little.
be the only thing on the wall over your bed.
That's probably true. But so yeah, I very well may bring that. That might be one that gets brought in. But
you're downsizing.
Yeah, and you know what I found? Found my
your diploma.
No, well I know where that's at.
Okay.
It's still just sitting in the envelope that they mailed it in. But I found my graduation gown. Found the old found the old Kentucky graduation thing. I was like, what do I do with this?
So is that making
I don't know,
the cut?
but I guess I'll keep it
See,
because that's one of those things I don't know what you do with it, right? Like it just kind of has to stay in a box.
I think I got rid of my robe but kept my hat.
Yeah,
I decorated my hat.
Still, yeah. I knew where the hat was. I hadn't seen the gown in forever. Just at the bottom of a box.
This is probably not going to be technically surprising, but it's I think noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
My hat for my graduation from MNU, I was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper the last year and a half that I was there, and so I put a bunch of newspaper clippings on my hat,
of course,
including what I believe to be one of several headlines that was essentially. Really, I'm remembering it differently than it happened in real time, but felt sort of like a windmill dunk on the university president, who
good old buddies with.
Not I haven't gone out to drink with him post graduation. Now that I think about it, which makes sense because he's a pastor or he's the president of a Nazarene university, so that would be a pretty big scandal. And also the newspaper's dead now, so I think he won.
There was a guy who I sat behind, like in my graduation, had his cap decorated. Yeah. But he had the Acid Rap album cover on the top. I was like,
that's pretty good.
I literally sat there for like an hour just staring at like, this is so awesome.
It's really awesome, and it's also you are essentially also at that point graduating as a success story of the power of marijuana.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can love that album and you can love Chance and that's all great. But if that is on your hat as you graduate, it may as well have said in like a sparkly Sharpie, I smoked a lot of weed while I was here.
So our graduation was in Rupp too, because it was during the winter, and a buddy who I was graduating with, so he's a couple, he's 2 people in front of me. His last name's Roush. My last name's Salazar. Very close, right? So we're right next to each other.
RS.
And so, anyways, he's got a little, essentially a little basketball, like a little mini stress ball basketball. And before he gets up on stage, when they say his name, he just turns around, puts his back to the stage, and then does a turnaround fadeaway and just shoots the ball over, just shoots this little ball. I honestly don't even remember where he actually, in the direction he shot it.
Doesn't even matter.
But just shot it. I was just like,
so good.
I was like, that was a pretty baller move. And he might be about maybe slightly taller than me, but he tall boy.
Right.
So it played off well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I wish I would have had that and then had one of my friends bring a little. We have the little 8-10 basketball hoops. Yeah. I wish somebody would have brought a little Nerf hoop up. Just put it right over the president.
Oh, we could have just posterized them.
I could have posterized them. That would have been incredible.
We also had fireworks shot off inside Rupp, which seemed like it's one of those things when you say it out loud, you're like, that doesn't seem safe, but then you remember they do this at every basketball game. Yeah. It's no big deal, but Rupp is a huge arena.
There were no fireworks inside of College Church.
Nah. Rupp's that. Here's what I'll say about Rupp. It is. I've been to a handful of different NBA arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Rupp is an NBA arena. If I've ever been one.
Interesting.
It is. It is massive. It is just as big as. It's not quite as nice as now part of it as Pepsi Center, but Pepsi Center is a newer facility, so like that makes sense. I've been. It reminded me a little bit more of Orlando's. It was Orlando style.
Do you guys want to do?
Been in Orlando.
You want to see if we can get bankrolled just like we do a tour once, probably next season. Maybe we just do a tour of NBA arenas. We just do show remotes from NBA arenas.
Fine with me.
Hey, I got good news.
You would have to be on the board here.
Hey, I got good news.
So Rudy and I
We can
go.
get somebody else to run the show.
Josh, I
That's
got
fine.
good news.
Tell me
You
about
know what my sister just bought?
Hey, Landon, where you at?
She just bought a camper. So I got a spot for us to live. We just hooked that bad boy up, and
We could put
we
sponsors on that thing like
yeah.
a NASCAR. You
All
kidding
we
me?
need. Here's the thing. Well, at that point we really don't need a lot of money. Gas and like gas station food isn't that much when you think about it. We just need to be able to get into the games. That's where the real money. You just got to sponsor getting the games.
I want to do this. I want to do this luxuriously. If I'm going to be on the road this much with you two dorks,
Hey, this thing's got 3 beds.
well, does it have a bathroom?
It does. And a shower.
Really?
Yeah. It's a
Damn.
little small. Yeah, it will be a little cramped, but you know what? We got a kitchen. We got 3 beds. Now it's one of those things where like the table, there's a couch that pulls out into a bed. The table turns into a bed, and then above the table there's like a little bunk bed.
I'm not sure that the 3 of us could road trip in that to Lawrence and back and not kill
we
each
totally
other.
could. We'd be fine.
Anyway, here's the thing that I wanted to bring up 7 minutes ago and totally forgot about.
Make fun of me.
Kentucky associate head coach and tight ends coach Vince Marrow.
Also, the recruiting. Well, I don't know if his official title is recruiting coordinator anymore, but basically he's their recruiting guy. Like that's what he does.
Said, quote, "I'm not saying we're Alabama or Ohio State,
Factual.
but we're damn near close."
Factual.
In November, Alabama and Kentucky did play football. At the end of the first quarter,
true.
it was 7-3,
Yeah.
4-point
'Cause
differential.
We're right there with Bama.
Yeah, right there with Bama at the end of the first quarter. At the end of the game, it was 63-3,
Well, it's COVID year.
Alabama.
Was that Bama's excuse for not putting up more points?
It's COVID year. But here's the thing. Here's
You can't say we're
Yep.
damn near close when you're 60 points away.
but here's the thing.
What are we doing here?
Here's the thing. You know who Alabama's starting quarterback was?
Was it Mac Jones?
It
it
was.
actually. I looked up this
It
game
was.
and I saw it was Mac
It
Jones.
was.
I don't think he didn't play the whole game because they were winning
Well,
by so much.
Do you know where Mac Jones is from?
No, I've just been reading about his DUI.
He's from Kentucky. You know where Mac Jones was committed
So
to?
you're saying he went easy on them?
You know where Mac
Yeah,
Jones
that's
was committed to before he committed to Alabama?
I'm gonna say
North
Louisville.
Carolina.
He was committed to Kentucky.
What?
Yeah.
Theo, did you have guessed that? Not in a million years.
No, not really.
No.
So
That's why I guessed North
basically-
Carolina.
So at least half of those Alabama points, basically Kentucky points. It's like Jamar Chase, former KU
Almo-
football
here's the
recruit.
thing.
That's not how that works.
Here's
there,
the
Rudy.
thing. Here's the thing. You
Wait,
said
wait,
almost half.
on
Hold
Monday Night Football. Whenever they're saying like
Monday. Yeah, that famous show Monday Football.
I said Monday Night Football.
Oh.
Yeah.
I said Monday
Monday
Football.
night.
He did.
football,
I will
yeah.
give him credit for
He
that.
said
Yes.
night.
I did say
Yes.
Monday. I was saying, I'm pretty sure it's Monday Night Football.
All
When
right,
George
fine.
Kittle's like, hey, George Kittle, Iowa. Mac Jones will be like, Mac Jones, Kentucky, former Kentucky or commit. Like that's and Jamar Chase
Yeah.
when they'll play the Miami Dolphins. Jamar
Yep.
Chase will be like Jamar Chase, one-time KU football commit.
Kansas, LSU. He'll just say them both. Mac Jones just goes Kentucky, Alabama.
Honestly, he doesn't say Alabama. He's just like I was a one-time Kentucky commit.
I feel like for you to try to get this off the ground, you got to take what you can get. What you can get is a hyphen. You can get Kentucky, Alabama. You might even be able to get.
Alabama keeps stealing Kentucky recruits, and it hurts. Damian Harris, the running back for the Patriots.
Yeah.
He has a story. His story was because he's also from Kentucky. He was like, yeah, I was committing to the University of Kentucky. He's like, I was sitting down at the table. I'm committed to Kentucky. I'm reaching for the Kentucky hat. I'm committed to Kentucky. And just at the last second, I grabbed the Alabama hat. I'm like, that is a gut-wrenching story. Like that wasn't like I woke up the day of and changed
Yeah,
my
that's
mind.
crazy.
That was I was seconds away from being a Kentucky Wildcat, and I decided like I'm gonna be a. And then the one guy, funny story, the one guy that we get who chooses Kentucky over Alabama, 5-star recruit, bust. He was bad.
What I would like to clarify from a
Anyways,
moment
yeah,
ago is just that you said that almost half those points that Mac Jones
Yeah.
scored would go to Kentucky,
Yeah.
and that still wouldn't have been enough.
But we'd be close,
I mean, yeah.
sir.
But that made up
Closer.
rule, And also, not all those were his points.
Yeah, but
and there's a lot of other things going on
it's
there.
basically a Kentucky team. Alabama's basically full of Kentucky football recruits. We're right there.
Alabama's.
Did we get a quarterback to choose us over Ohio State? You bet we did. Did he turn out to suck? You bet he did. But guess what? We won that battle.
Alabama's mostly full of Kentucky recruits, and you're mostly full of bleep. It's all perfect.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
When you show up to do the duty that the duty not that you wanted, but that this
Say
country,
duty one more time.
Duty that this country thrust on you to take a picture of Anthony Sherman's butt. You got to wear the shirt.
with Joshua Brisco.
The fact that the payoff of duty thrust was Anthony Sherman's butt felt a little like you had maybe telegraphed your shot there. I was confused the whole way through.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Beers mentioned this during the break, and I do want to bring it up now that we're here. UCLA, decent basketball player after he got away from the grasp of Kentucky. Johnny Juzang is also going to the
Always
next
gonna
level.
hurt.
It's just one of those things
Not
where,
signing an agent, though. He could come back.
to UCLA and not
Yes.
Kentucky.
No, not Kentucky.
That's something
Unfortunately,
that you
no.
should keep in mind.
Unfortunately, no. My guess is he does go back to UCLA because he would be there. I mean, they're going to be the preseason #1 team if he comes back, and you can be the best player in the preseason #1
They
team.
are?
Yeah. Everybody's got UCLA as the #1 team next year because
okay.
they return everybody. As of right now, not Johnny Juzang, but he's expected to be back. If he leaves, most people then have Gonzaga bumping up to #1.
The perfect, absolutely on the nose stuff that happened over the course of the commercial break was me staring at my screen talking about Devin Booker, Rudy talking about Kentucky and Johnny Juzang, and then Beards just pulling out a reference to the Basketball Jones podcast. And man,
So much disrespect.
we're just all just all three of us are just so on brand at the moment.
So disrespectful.
The show will be on brand whenever we come back. Lyle Graversen of Arrowhead Addict to talk Chiefs draft. That's next.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
there. I'm Mark Robbins in the NBA. Tonight, the Suns and the Sixers putting on a solid show in Philly. And in the end...
Free throws up, but no good. Embiid has it. He heaves it the length of the floor, and he almost made it. He just about made it, but he missed, and the game is over. Embiid threw the length of the floor and hit the backboard and almost went in.
How about that finish? 97-5, the Fanatic with the call. It is Phoenix winning at 116-113. Elsewhere, Indiana knocks off Oklahoma City 122-116. Toronto beats Brooklyn 114-103. Moving on to Big League Baseball, and the A's have now an 11-game winning streak after rallying for a 13-12, 10-inning win over Minnesota. Oakland with 3 runs in the bottom of the 10th to get the win, despite Nelson Cruz hitting 2 homers for Minnesota. The Rockies beat the Astros amidst the snowflakes in Denver. Final there, 6-5. In college basketball, Florida forward Deontay Johnson, waiting for medical clearance, says he won't enter the NBA draft. He wants to return and play in Florida next season. Johnson was rushed to a local hospital December 12th after falling face first onto the court during a timeout in a game against Florida State in Tallahassee. In the NHL, Chicago knocks off Nashville 5-4 in overtime. Brandon Hagel with the overtime game winner, and the Indianapolis 500 will allow up to 135,000 fans for the May 30th race.
Hey, it's Greeny, and we will be 1 week from the draft when we get together on Thursday, and one of my draft partners, Booger McFarland, will break down all the picks with me. Don't miss it. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
But that's not where this show makes its money. You guys know that. We make our money talking about the Chiefs. And dunking on people on Twitter.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
How do you guys feel about some draft talk? Good, because that's what we're doing. I don't give you time to answer, so I don't want to know your answer. We're doing it, baby. We haven't talked about the draft very much at all over the course of tonight's show, which has been absolutely the anomaly in recent days, weeks, months. I mentioned this earlier. I feel like this draft season I have gotten as fully immersed by the draft stuff. I'm not immersed in it. It has immersed me. It was a wave flowing over me that has now trapped me, and we're now officially close. We are a week and a day removed from the NFL draft, and we'll talk about it right now with Lyle Graversen of Arrowhead Addict. You can follow him on Twitter at Lyle Graversen, E-R-S-E-N, at the end, 2 E's. We talk about that every time because I want to make sure you, dear listener, can find his Twitter account. And you can read his work up on arrowheadaddict.com, a piece that we'll talk about momentarily, some big picture stuff, all of that goodness. Lyle, first thing, though, is how have you enjoyed this particular series of NFL draft coverage that we've all been producing for the world and soaking up as we've got a pretty interesting last couple of months for the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's been a weird year for me because there's always a position that I kind of seem to get obsessed with, and it's definitely been tackle this year.
Yep.
But normally I find that one guy that I'm like, this is the guy. That's who they got to get. And it's just a weird year because I just keep going back and forth between different guys. So it's been kind of a different draft year, but I'm definitely anxious for it to get here next week. It can't get here soon enough.
So let's start with the tackle spot because listen, we're telegraphing our shots at this point, but it's the thing. Like I don't know if you were surprised any steps along the way as much as I was that they didn't bring in a veteran tackle, and the reasons they moved on from Fisher and Schwartz became relatively obvious. It was a combination of them not being healthy and their cap hits. I think it's a little more the former than the latter, but certainly an element of both. But it just created such a vacuum there, and now we're at this point here, a week away from the draft, and there's not a veteran on the left side. Like literally right now, the left tackle first up on the depth chart is Martinez Rankin. And if they had to play a game tomorrow, I imagine it would be Lucas Niang. So how, in super big picture terms, how did you feel about how free agency panned out from them whiffing on Trent Williams to where we are now? And then how severe do you think the need at left tackle is whenever we're talking about it in draft terms?
First of all, I am surprised that they haven't done anything at left tackle. Like that does genuinely surprise me, because it seems like ever since, well, even going back before Brett Veach to just when Andy Reid was here, it seemed like they didn't like to have to go into the draft like, we got to fill this hole. It seems like they've always kind of tried to have the approach of, look, we feel like we could play today, and then that way we can just take the best guy available. And this year, it just feels like, talking about the draft need, it feels like we've got such a massive need at left tackle. I mean, especially with how the Super Bowl went, to me, it just showed you can't just plug anybody in and go, yeah, we'll be fine because our offense is so good because we have Pat and Andy Reid, and clearly the offensive line has to be right for all the other talent to do its thing. And so arguably the most important spot on the entire line, to just have it be such a question mark still entering the draft, it's kind of uncharted territory, it feels like.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it also, because you're right. You want to be able to go into these drafts, and specifically Veach, and even going back to John Dorsey, it seemed like most of the time, honestly, I'm trying to think back even farther than that, the number of times where it felt like the Chiefs were making a pick for the next year. You say if he's playing this year in a big way, it's probably a little bit of an emergency situation. At the very least, these picks are going to be guys that you expect for the future, and if they show up sooner than that, then great. But right now, I mean, it's just a total vacuum. So with all of that being said, are you right now thinking that it's a lock that they're going to have to take the best available tackle at 31, or does some of that little wishy-washiness you mentioned earlier that we'll get into more, does that make you think that maybe they could find that solution later in the draft?
I think if things stay as they are now, I think it's a lock they go a left tackle prospect in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if the board goes a certain way. I don't think they'll take a guy that they clearly think is a second-round talent at 31 if the guys they like value-wise at 31 are already off the board. I think they're more likely to trade up and get a guy they like, or trade back into the second round, maybe pick up an extra pick, or maybe they really like somebody at 31 and then they move up from the back of the second round to make sure they get like a developmental guy that they really like, if the top-tier guys in the first round are gone. So I would be genuinely shocked if they didn't get one in the first 2 rounds.
I agree with that. I think that's all 100% where my head is at this point. And also, if I had to bet on it, them moving up for someone, if they do feel like the floor is about to fall out, is very on brand for Brett Veach and for this the way that he's operated, sort of generally speaking, over his time as Chiefs GM. But if you look, let's go ahead and say specifically the guys that could be there at 31, or that maybe you'd be happy to be there at 31. And honestly, I don't know what your board looks like, but like for me, I'm assuming Sewell, Slater, and Darrisaw are all going off the board in the top 15 in all likelihood. Tevin Jenkins has a little bit of a fluctuation where if he could go 20, but also if he ends up being there at 31, I'm just talking to our friends Seth Kaiser and Nate Taylor. I know both of them would be happy to see him be a Chief at 31. And then you kind of get into, for me, what develops into the next class of guys. Again, you could have that line drawn after Samuel Cosme. You could have that line drawn before Tevin Jenkins. But with you saying that you've been, again, a little bit, struggling to find the guy, where do you draw that line in terms of guys you'd be happy with at 31?
Well, I'd be thrilled with Jenkins at 31. I just don't think there's any way he makes it there. I just don't see that. And so Jenkins is like close to being my guy. My problem is, and I'm probably biased because the guy's actually an alumni of my high school in Topeka, so I'm like super like rooting for the guy. But my only concern is, he's a college right tackle, and he's kind of more of like a power tackle than like a agility left tackle kind of stereotypical type. So normally if I love the tackle, I'd be like, well, then just go get him. But then, okay, so you're giving up extra draft picks to move up to get a guy who I love, but then there's still a little bit of a question mark. Is he a left tackle? So then I'm like, okay, so maybe that's not my guy. So then when I look at that next tier, there's like something about each guy that I'm just like, well, Like, probably, honestly, the guy I like the best is Liam Eichenberg. But again, doesn't necessarily fit their stereotypical profile of a left tackle. He's not the most agile guy. He's got the short arms, which is like a big thing this year where everybody's freaking out about arm length. But in terms of actually watching their tape, he's the guy I like the best. I'm just afraid to kind of really get all in on that guy because it doesn't kind of fit the profile of what I think the Chiefs have typically looked for in a left tackle.
Yeah.
So I'm a little iffy there. Cosme fits that, but I just don't love his tape. It just something about it's like he has the athleticism to get in front of the pass rusher, but I never feel like he really gets his hands on the guy and engages real well. It just seems like he just kind of like uses that athleticism to stay in front of him just long enough, but can never really block him real well, at least to my liking. And maybe that's something the Chiefs are like, oh, we can fix that technique and clean that up. And so if they took him, I wouldn't be like upset, but I'm just not in love with him. Leatherwood's solid, but again, I'm not just like pounding the table for him. And so it's just a weird year. It's a position that I've watched a lot and I really want him to fill, but I'm just worried there's not going to be that perfect guy sitting there at 31 that's just like, yep, that's it, get him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I will say two things really quick about Tevin Jenkins. One is that I feel like I knew everything about this man until just now, and I did not even know that he was born in Topeka. I missed that completely. I feel like I should have known that a month ago, but now I've learned that. He went to high school in Topeka, so there's that connection. Also, Rudy, do you want to guess what Tevin Jenkins' middle name is?
Samson.
No, it's Bradley, which is my middle name. It's spelled differently, but we have the same middle name phonetically.
Does he spell it the right way?
No, well, actually, there's an extra E. It's L-E-E instead of L-E-Y.
He's got enough E's for the both of you.
Yeah, that's true. So I've learned two things about Tevin Jenkins now that I would have assumed I knew already. But I think you're 100% right about, so like, it feels like we end up having a very inverse conversation about Cosme and Eichenberg. And you can look down the line, and in Leatherwood, is he even an NFL tackle, actually? You could ask the same thing about Vera Tucker, who's probably not going to be there at 31 anyway. But then you get into this space where you're talking about Walker Little, Brady Christensen, Dylan Redunds, a guy that has slowly moved up because of largely just how much Seth Kaiser loved looking at his tape, Stone Forsythe. For me, I start talking myself into saying, you know what? If those first four are all off the board at 31, I'll go ahead and roll the dice that one of the next 5 or 6 or 7 guys will be there at 63, because I'm not sure that I feel really, really strongly about number 5 as opposed to number 12 at this point. Is that kind of where you're at?
That's exactly where I'm at. But I'm also open enough. Like, let's say the pick is in and they go with the Kansas City Chiefs take Walker Little. And my gut reaction is, man, that seems early for Little. But at the same time, if that's the guy the Chiefs think is clearly number 5, I'm fine with it. Like, if they're like, no, we would way rather have Walker Little than Eichenberg or whoever, then I'm good with that. I just haven't seen that guy on tape that I'm just like I said, all in and on go everything. Like, I have no concerns. He fits the left tackle. His tape is good. He has the traits. Like, there's always some element of that that's just a little off. But if the Chiefs go, this is the guy, we're confident he's the one, then I'm not going to be upset, especially if it's filling, like what we've already talked about is a glaring hole right now on the roster.
So before we pivot off into other positions, I want to draw this back to Lyle's latest piece up on arrowheadaddict.com right now, looking at some late round sleepers and everything. And you admit that that your pick at left tackle being Larnell Coleman. You say that you weren't necessarily blown away by his tape because you're having a hard time finding UMass tape, which I think is a very honest way of putting that I appreciate. But with that being said, you've got him there. You've also got a couple other linemen in that section that you feel maybe a little bit better about across the line in terms of some O-line sleepers. Which of those guys from that group do you feel the most confident in, and then what is it that attracted you to Coleman?
Well, I'll start with Coleman. I was desperately looking for a later round tackle that I'm like, maybe they could find a developmental guy and they'll, sign Okung or something like that if they don't like any of the guys early. And I just couldn't find anybody I liked. Or I like them, but I go, yeah, but they're probably at best a right tackle, if not a guard or something like that. But when I was looking through some of the measurables and some of the draft guides and some different things, the one guy, this Larnell Coleman out of UMass, is the one that actually checks all the measurable boxes for an actual left tackle, just in terms of his like timing on the time drills, and he's got like huge long arms, and there's a clip of him that's in the post that I found where you can see him doing some movement drills, and the guy moves really well. So that was where I was like, well, okay, there's at least an actual left tackle prospect. Yeah. Now, it's not a guy I would want anywhere near the field as a rookie protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side. But if you're looking for somebody in the 6th round that you think, okay, let's take a flyer and see if this is somebody we could develop, that would actually be a guy that I think has the traits to be a left tackle. Out of the offensive line, and again, we're talking kind of like deep, we're talking guys that are 5th or 6th rounders. We're not talking guys we'd take early on.
Right.
I really do like Trey Hill, the center out of Georgia. He's a bigger center prospect, definitely a very different profile than Austin Ryder, which some Chiefs fans might be good with. But he's a more power guy, but he hustles really hard. He's not fast. Like, you don't put on the tape and go, look at him fly around the field. But he, hustles. Like, if he's pulling, he's giving great effort. And the thing I like about him, and I'll kind of tie it back to what I don't love about Cosme, is when he gets to a guy, he locks on to him. And so, he may not be as mobile, but when he gets to the second level, he finds a linebacker and he hits them. And I just really like that about, to me, what good is an offensive lineman that's super mobile if he doesn't really get his hands on anybody once he runs to that point? So I really like Hill out of Georgia. And then the small school, the Appalachian State guard, actually could be a center prospect too. And I'm not 100% sure on how to say the last name. Actually, it's like Ryan Newsel, super mobile, that guy, and does a pretty good job of engaging at the second level. He's just got some technique stuff, but he's a little undersized, but with that kind of natural movement skills. Again, if you're looking at a 6th rounder, he's maybe even one they could look at as an undrafted free agent if he doesn't get picked. Was a guy that I really liked compared to some of the other guys projected in that same range.
All right, so we got our mandatory 15 minutes of offensive line talk. We did it. We are now legally allowed to move on another position group, and so I want to do that now. I think pretty clearly at this point we've got our ducks in a row, and it is tackle, and then maybe a little bit at center, and edge and receiver at this point being the main spots we're looking at. And if we've got time, we can look elsewhere. But among the edge class, again, if you're open to not taking a tackle at 31, it means you've got other choices there. Does anybody catch your eye in the edge rusher class? Because I know that's another spot that has left some people not necessarily underwhelmed, but not necessarily expecting there to be a day one ready edge to line up opposite Frank Clark as soon as he hits the field.
Yeah, it's not my favorite edge class of all time, unfortunately. I don't know. There's not a guy I love at 31. I mean, one of the guys that I looked at that's more of a round 2, but if you're going to maybe reach on a guy, if assuming that you're like your top edge rusher or 2 is off the board, I do like Gregory Rousseau of Miami. I think he fits kind of the Spags traits that you look for, and he could be a little bit of an inside-outside guy that they could move around the line. And there's some, again, that wouldn't be first round. There's some other guys like that. I like Peyton Turner out of Houston, but he's probably more of like a second round prospect. And then in my late picks that I did for this last week, it's a guy that a lot of listeners may know. I like Wyatt Hubert out of Kansas State. I know his traits and his time, like his 40 time is not good, and his size is a little bit of a tweener status, but he's one of those guys that just kind of like plays like a wild man and gives great energy and put something like almost 100 quarterback pressures up over the last 2 years. And so if you were looking at a late round guy just to use as like a special teams player and a situational pass rusher, I actually really like Wyatt Hubert out of Kansas State.
I like that. That's a good call. Let's go to maybe a deeper class then, though, because again, it's funny how all of these end up lining up in terms of what the Chiefs need right now. There are a lot of receivers that are going to go early in this draft, and there are a lot of incredibly talented receivers. And this also continues out deep throughout the class. If you do a mock draft somewhere and you look at the end of the third round at a few of the guys that are still there, I think most people would surprise themselves by looking at the class at that point. But if you're not necessarily in love with an edge at 31, you're not in love with a tackle at 31, could I interest you in a wide receiver?
Yes, I think that is a possibility. The only thing that I would say is I see some mocks and some fans, they don't need another little fast guy.
I agree with you.
If
Yes.
you're mocking like or something, one of these guys that's like like 5'9" and runs a really fast 40, I just don't see them going that route unless they are just like, yeah, Hardman isn't panning out or something like that, which I don't think they feel that way. Or, yeah, we're not going to be re-signing Hill after this contract. Like to me, they need a true, like, number 2 receiver opposite Tyreek Hill. And so if there was somebody, and I think that's where, like a Terrence Marshall would be, to me, a solid pick at 31, just in terms of value and actually kind of fitting the mold of what they need. But it's a huge, deep class, and it's such a deep class that if let's say they go completely, they pick a position that completely we aren't expecting at 31, to me, kind of like you were saying, at the end of the third round, you could still get a really solid receiver. I mean, you might be able to get a Nico Collins or somebody like that, that again would fit that mold of a bigger guy. And so I really like this class. I like the depth of it. I just don't agree sometimes when I see the predictions because there's a bunch of really good smaller, quick, fast receivers. I just don't think those are the guys that the Chiefs are targeting.
I think you're right, and I'm glad that you mentioned specifically Hardman because, listen, this is we're going to all be honest. This is a place of honesty tonight, and I need everyone to accept this pledge. But McCole Hardman's been a little bit underwhelming, right? Like, the idea this year was that he was going to take some other step forward and be a larger part of the offense, kind of in its most naturally occurring form, right? Where, like, you're not necessarily having to manufacture touches for him, and some of his best stretches came in the first 15 plays of games later in the year. And that's okay. Like, he's not going to be the guy that replaces the role they had for Sammy Watkins. He was very unlikely to do that from the jump. They drafted him on a draft night when Tyreek Hill's future was very unknown, and also McCole Hardman isn't Tyreek Hill. He can have a good role being McCole Hardman on this offense, but drafting another McCole Hardman type doesn't make any sense because they would still have McCole Hardman.
Right, 100% agree. And this draft is loaded with McCole Hardman types that I think are tempting prospects if you need that guy.
Right.
Kansas City just doesn't need that guy.
Yeah. So listen, the thing that I'm going to be doing, and this is always a struggle, and I know that there's always going to be a couple of these guys. I think on draft night, I'm going to be a little bit sad whenever Tevin Jenkins goes like 21st or whatever, and they go, all right, well, the left tackle thing fully up in the air now, because if he's there at 31, I'd think they were going to do it. And I'm going to be really emotionally attached and then destroyed to Rashad Bateman. And whenever he gets drafted, like 4 picks before the Chiefs pick, I'm going to have a very bad day.
Yeah, I would love Bateman too. I think that's another great pick at 31. To me, him and Marshall are probably the two that make the most sense that could conceivably be there at 31. If neither of those guys are, then I'm probably waiting to the second or third round.
Yeah, I think that's. I'm looking at the board right now. I think I agree with that. I think that's fair. So you mentioned that if they go totally off the board, a position group that we're not expecting at all at 31, that there's going to be depth options at all three of these positions, which I think is a good thing to note. Also, it's a reason, by the way, to not trade up necessarily, because every time you trade up, you lose a lottery ticket that you could have somewhere in the depth department, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. If they go somewhere that's not a position we've talked about so far at 31, what would your money be on?
I don't know. I mean, I guess corner shouldn't surprise anybody because I don't think that's wait, they took a corner kind of thing. I think that's probably the most logical of the positions we haven't talked about. And you can definitely make an argument for linebacker. To me, if we go back-to-back years taking a running back and then a linebacker in the first round, I'm just going to be frustrated. I'll just say that. I just don't know that that's the value way to spend first-round draft picks, but they could certainly be in a position to where they could get one of the better linebackers in the draft at where they're picking, and you can make an argument that it's a position of need. It's just not where I would go.
Here's the thing about the linebacker spot, because if you would have caught me, a month ago, I think you would have had I would have just been yelling at everybody and saying, listen, if they're not going to take a freaking linebacker at 31, it's not going to happen. They took a linebacker in the second round last year. They're still paying Anthony Hitchens money, all that, and it's not a good value for that position right there. They're not going to do it. And then as time goes on, I also find myself being a little bit of a pessimist about the linebackers right now, because Anthony Hitchens probably isn't going to be here much longer. Willie Gay is penciled in to be an opening day starter, and he got 7 snaps last year, and I'm barely exaggerating. And then it's Ben Neiman. And I think in reality, they need to draft a Ben Neiman replacement and then find what they can to replace Anthony Hitchens next year and to replace Damian Wilson this year because he's gone. But the more that I start doing all of that little position scooting around in my head, the more nervous that I get. They're just going to take Nick Bolton at 31, and I'm going to have to lie down.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that pick at all. And I don't even know if he fits the system as well. But the only linebacker that's kind of intriguing to me is Zaven Collins of Tulsa, just because he's such a physical freak, because he's 260 pounds, but plays like an off-ball, sideline to sideline linebacker. And usually guys that big are more just your plug the gaps, run stoppers. So he's just kind of fun just from the football fan in me. I'm like, ooh, I like that guy. But it's just not the position. Now, if you want to make some Chiefs heads explode.
Go ahead. I'm gonna scoot over the microphone. I'm gonna take my headphones off.
If you want to talk about a guy that I think the Chiefs might like that they could take in the later rounds, Ben Neiman's younger brother Nick is actually a really solid late-round linebacker prospect.
I love it.
Also out of Iowa.
Yes.
If it makes Chiefs fans feel better, his athletic times are off the charts better than his brother's. So he's a much more athletic version of Ben Neiman, but still that same kind of just super smart, knows exactly where he's supposed to be. He's a reliable tackler. I actually think he's a better tackler than Ben Neiman is too, and he's more athletic. So if that were to happen, if it's they're on the clock in the 5th round and it comes in and they've taken another Neiman brother out of Iowa, don't just throw your remote at the flat screen yet. It's not that bad. And it would actually be, I almost feel bad for Ben if he lost his job to his little brother. So that would be a silver lining for some Chiefs fans that are wanting to upgrade that spot.
I genuinely hope that happens. I think that would be out just partially for Twitter, partially because I actually think that if your goal is to have a Ben Neiman replacement, you should find that guy in the 6th round. It may as well be his little brother. Do you know, is there another Neiman brother that we need to be aware of? Because honestly, I felt stupid for being blindsided by the possibility of the Chiefs taking another Neiman.
I don't know. I could look into that. That I am not aware of a third Neiman brother, but it's certainly possible.
I'm going to have to try to look into this a little bit because, God, that would be so delicious.
Just has one younger brother, Nick.
Well, is there a cousin or anything? Can we get his Ancestry.com or whatever? Can we get a Neiman family 23andMe for just sort of NFL caliber, but barely sort of linebackers. There's no shame in that.
I mean,
also hope Willie Gay is good. That's all.
He's only got the one brother, but his father is is technically he's a coach, a defensive coach for Iowa. So they're all family, right?
That's a great point.
Any defensive player that comes from Iowa, it's family.
That's all. They're all Neiman's to me.
They're all brothers.
Neiman's all the way down.
Anthony Hitchens was also an Iowa linebacker.
Iowa
linebacker. Clearly, it's just like a pipeline that we've got going here.
Oh man, I hope that happens. I'm just repeating myself thinking about how much I absolutely love all of that. Okay, last thing here, Lyle. So you in your previous piece up on Arrowhead Addict, you went through and you ran through a mock draft with a series of options and whatnot. I'm curious if there was anything along that path that we haven't really gotten to tonight, where you went, oh, you know what? All right, so I've taken my options in A, B, C, and D, and we've gone through all the different mock draft simulators, and boy, whenever it panned out this way, I was the most pleased.
I'm probably most pleased when I can get a tackle I like in the first round, although depending on what day you ask me, it's a different guy, like we already talked about. I really like when I can land Quinn Miners of Wisconsin Whitewater, the center prospect, in the second round. I think that guy, I love that. I love that guy as a center prospect. And then I'm almost always happy with my options at receiver in the third round. So to me, if they can come out of the first three rounds with a tackle and a wide receiver, that's to me how the depth of this draft is set up perfectly for them to address those two positions at some point in the first three rounds. And then to me, if they do that, they can draft even if they did go linebacker in the first round, but if they get their left tackle of the future in the second and a solid wide receiver in the third, I'll live with the linebacker. Like, I just feel like if they can land a solid guy at those other two spots in two of the first three picks, the rest of the draft, they're kind of free to just go wherever they think the best value is.
I think this way of doing it was a lot of fun. People can go check that out again. If you click the link to any of Lyle's work on Arrowhead Addict, you can just click his name, and it'll get you their little archive, and you can scroll through what he's put out most recently. And there's additional reading on tackles and arm length and all of that good stuff, all available from Lyle up on Arrowhead Addict. And again, you can follow him on Twitter at Lyle Graversen. Lyle, thank you for joining us here tonight, for talking about arm length and tackles and linebackers and Ben Neiman's little brother. Hopefully we'll have something fun to talk about shortly after the draft.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Follow him on Twitter. That's the least you can do at this point. He just gave us half an hour. Go follow him on Twitter, you animals. At Lyle Graversen. Go check out all of his work up on Arrowhead Addict. I like talking about that. We got to do that more often. Do it again after the draft and see where they've ended up. I think, honestly, this is not a great radio tease, but that's probably for the best because Beards is currently at the thermostat on the other side of the wall. So are you good, Beards?
Do it. I'm fine.
Just
the temperature just went up to 69, and I want to take it back down to 67.
Oh,
it's a nicer number.
That's not how that works.
Because it's
got a
cooler.
pretty established thing in here. No, it's not.
67 is a cooler number.
But,
wow.
Oh, man, it's also April 21st now. Ugh, it's 4:21.
Wow,
this is a bad day of temperature. Right now, it's 63 in the studio here now.
Likes April 18th a lot better.
Freaking nerd. Anyway, not a great radio tease for me to say that I agreed with a grand majority of what Lyle said in that segment, and I'll agree with myself whenever we come back.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports
If I would have had to have bet my life in the game yesterday, I would have been dead today.
with Joshua Brisco
But I'm not really.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Lyle Graversen of Arrowhead Addict for joining us last segment. Always going to talk to Lyle. And during the break, Rudy said, hey, I got a draft strategy for you.
do.
And I said, shut up, Rudy.
He did.
Don't stop doing radio whenever we're not supposed to be doing radio, and save that radio for whenever we start doing radio again after the commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rudy broke down into tears.
Yeah.
Because I was so harsh with my verbiage.
It was not nice.
And so I apologize for how rude I was.
It's cool.
But I will say this. I'm more or less kind of over talking about individual players in great depth, with the exception of whenever Seth's next round of tackle reviews come out. But, like, we've talked about these dudes. And we'll talk about these dudes a ton more after they are drafted by the Chiefs. But I like the idea of talking about draft strats. Let's do it.
So I was doing I've done far fewer like draft simulations this year. And a lot of times I do that to like just get names of guys, right?
Yeah.
And I realized like every time I do one, I never really fully like it. And I think a large part of that is because I've just done so much fewer, so I just don't know as many names, especially as we go on.
Yeah.
Which is, that's on me.
Yeah.
But I've been kind of just like toying around like, hey, like, just stuff the Chiefs could do. I'm always a proponent for trading down, and we've talked about this plenty of times on how like the gap between there's a clear gap in tackles, and then you get to a group of 5 where those guys might be the same.
Yep.
And I don't know if this trade specifically would work because like sometimes obviously with draft simulators like it's just they're going off numbers. I don't know if it worked, but something along this lines of is every time I have the option, it seems like trading down to 36 with Miami.
Yeah.
Miami gets picked 31. Chiefs get picked 36, and frequently they also have picks 50. They have picks 50 and 81. Usually pick 50 is another second round pick, pick 81 is a third round pick. I don't know if the Chiefs could trade down to 36 and get 50 and have 2 second round picks. I know they could trade down to 36 and at least get 81, and now all of a sudden they're in a situation where they have 2 seconds and 2 thirds. And if they could be in a spot to where
I think they might also have 2 fourths and 2 fifths.
Yeah, if they could be
It's
in
bonkers.
Yeah, if they could be in a spot though where especially where now all of a sudden you have 2 seconds and 2 fourths, and you could go and at this point the specific names just like it comes down to who's there, right? Like what is your order? But if you could come out of that second day with your tackle, with an edge, with the receiver, more and receiving target, but more than likely a wide receiver because I just don't think they're outside of Kyle Pitts, there's just not really that tight end. And then maybe you'll get that interior offensive lineman that you're gonna like whether it's right guard or center, like you're gonna need another one of those guys. Like I think trading back in this first round, unless there's a guy you just fall in love with. Like I did another one. I wanted to trade back. I saw Rashad Bateman. I was like, thank you. Which really then threw off the rest of my draft strategy because I was like, I don't really like the rest of this draft, but you know what? I like that guy. I think this seems like the perfect draft to essentially, I hate always going back to the Patriots, but like it's hard not to because they did so many things so well for quite some time. And there's another little story there. I feel like the Patriots just went anti-Patriots this offseason. I think they might trade up in this draft also. Again, going anti-Patriot. But this feels like the perfect draft. If you can trade down to around 36-ish and, and pick up, if you could pick up another second, all of a sudden you have 3 seconds and a third, great. I think more realistically it might be 2 seconds and 2 thirds. Either way.
1 second and 2 thirds.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you ultimately end up with 2 second round picks.
And no first. But
and no first round picks, 2 second round picks, 2 thirds, like where you would have, in theory, the Dolphins second, your second, the Dolphins third, and your third. Now, again, Dolphins have 2 second round picks this year. If you could get both of them, even better. I think you have a situation where you could really load up. Again, kind of following the Patriot model of loading up on guys who you need now, but also for the future. Like if you draft if you draft an interior offensive lineman, ideally a center, but maybe the center's not there, right? So you go with the guard. Right guard's good right now. Left guard's obviously solid for a while. But after this year, you might have a hole at right guard. Like LDT and Kyle Long might both be gone again.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, and again, not as important position. Center of the future is much more important. But I would much rather, if there's not a center there you like, much rather just take the guard that you do love versus the center who you're like, meh on. Point being, drafting an interior offensive lineman. I kind of like this. Like this seems like the perfect year to move back a handful of spots to pick up more picks.
Currently, the Chiefs have 1, 2, 3, 2 4s, 2 5s, and a 6th.
Do you know how mad Seren and Curtis will be on draft night when I'm here? If we get to like pick 25, and then all of a sudden Schefter or whoever tweets out, "Oh, by the way, the Chiefs have made a trade, and they are no longer picking in the first round." That was, I think, the first year I did the draft here, and that's what happened, and we were all sad and upset.
Here's the thing: your logic is absolutely sound. I've listened to enough of Petro. One, everybody's a little disappointed, right? Because like you want the Chiefs to draft because it's more fun when you do, especially in our situations. Like I was out. It
also takes like 4 hours. To
yeah,
get to pick 25.
I was out at Arrowhead in 2018. Like we knew the Chiefs weren't trading up into the first round, but like you're there just in case. And like it's not fun. I do know Seren is like I've listened to Seren where that is literally the thing he talks about the most, to where it would be they did the right thing, but obviously now we've just done a whole show and we have no Chiefs pick.
Yeah.
Curtis would be disappointed, I think.
I would be thrilled.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled. And honestly,
I think it's the right move this year.
I'm probably gonna hop in a little mock draft simi at some point, which is what I call mock draft simulators. Call them a little
simi.
little MD simi, which is also my favorite SoundCloud rapper.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Trading back at 31 probably doesn't cost you. It's not going to cost you Tevin Jenkins or Rashad Bateman. Because if either of those dudes are there, take them. Don't worry about it. It's fine with me.
You're
okay.
Good. I'm sure there's a handful of guys, the Chiefs, and maybe it's 4 or 5 guys that the Chiefs are like, hey, this guy's here. Like we just know this is who we want to get.
But if trading back from 31 to what was the Dolphins pick? 36. 30. So trading back from 31 to 36 might mean you don't get to pick your favorite between Liam Eichenberg and Sam Cosmi, but you're getting one of them, or you're getting one of those guys, or Stone and Forsythe. What it means you're not having to do, though, is wait all the way until 63 to find that guy, and now you add another pick in there to throw at I'm looking at a mock draft right now, at a Pete Werner in the 4th round, the linebacker from Ohio State. And at that point, you had a linebacker in the 4th, great. Your guard of the future in the 5th, love it. A center of the future in the 5th, awesome. Even if that happens in the 3rd, fine. You find your depth at receiver wherever, all about it. But it gets way easier to do that the more picks that you have.
I also, and this is another thing that was like going through my mind earlier. And this is more less likely to happen, but maybe there's a way. Like I was also thinking about this again. And part of this again was about interior offensive linemen, like in the future. And again, more specifically, right guard, where this is not Plan A. But all of a sudden, like, again, you trade down to 36. Maybe now you go after, maybe that's where you draft Eichenberg, right? Maybe that's a guy you like. You draft Eichenberg, whatever tackle it is. One thing that popped in my mind, then all of a sudden, maybe you are there at your first pick in the 3rd round. And because Walker Little hasn't played him forever, he's still there. And even though you've drafted your one tackle of the future, maybe you're all of a sudden, you're like, oh, bleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we didn't expect this.
Yes,
and
do it twice.
Maybe now you draft 2 guys. Because here's the thing. Again, one, you throw numbers at the left tackle position. But let's say they both turn out to be good. Unlikely, but let's say they do. Let's also say Lucas Niang, maybe he's playing well, but maybe he looks maybe a little overmatched. We've talked about it plenty of times about the potential of him sliding down into guard. And now all of a sudden, hey, like you would have you could potentially have both tackles and a guard spot. And again, however you want to play this, whether it's drafting a guard or a center, like you could have 3 of your linemen set for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Easy. Easy.
It's good takes from Rudy.
Thank you.
Good take Rudy is what I call him.
Thank you.
Mock draft simulator.
And if Rashad Bateman is there, just draft Rashad Bateman.
And then just, don't overthink it. This isn't letting me. Let's see, what am I going to get from the Dolphins here? I'm going to get 81. They say is too good for me. No, maybe not.
And here's the deal.
Working on this trade.
To get anyone or to get 50, maybe you throw in like a 20. Maybe you're throwing in you said right 2 4s, 2 5s. Maybe you're throwing in one of those 5s. Maybe it's a 2022. Wait, what year is it?
2021.
2022 pick.
Oh, so Rudy was so close to a perfect segment.
I know, right? Like maybe you throw in a late pick there, right? Maybe you're throwing in. Maybe you have to throw in another day 3. Some of this just comes down to what does Miami want to do, and it's finding the right team. It's finding the team that is aggressive. Miami has seemed to be a pretty aggressive team in terms of trading. They seem to be a team that want to go get picks. So they seem like the team that would be likely to be like, hey, we have a chance to go back into the end of the first round here. There's a guy we love. Maybe it's another offensive lineman to protect Tua. Maybe it's another receiver who's there who they really love. Whoever it is, they feel like the most likely team. It's also kind of that spot where you're dropping enough spots. Like if you're only dropping 33, you're probably not getting a ton of return. 5 spots is enough to where you maybe get to where you can get that extra second or extra third round pick.
I like this play. I'm gonna play around with it in the MD Simi, and then during the break, I'm gonna listen to a little MD Simi.
Yeah,
great beats, lyricist, MD Simi,
songbird or
lo-fi hip hop beats to study / relax to during our commercial breaks on Twitch.
He's like the songbird of our generation. Some say.
No one says that.
Mixed between Fergie and Jesus.
Mixed between.
You've never seen the movie. It's Step Brothers.
It's okay, Josh. I haven't seen it either.
It's a funny movie.
Great, the teammate that I really want in this, and the conversation about great media that we've missed out on.
It's a funny movie.
Rudy felt like he had a whole Rudy basically brought a whole segment to us just now. We just ate it up. It was a great segment. Yeah. But now look at this. Rudy. Where are your teammates to help get to a break? Nowhere to be found.
Would you say I was like Michael Porter Jr. tonight in the first quarter when he went 8 for 8 from the floor with 17 points? Just perfect day.
What happened after?
Did Michael Porter Jr. break his ankle?
No, he went 8 for 8 in the first quarter.
What happened?
Points.
What happened after that?
I mean, it's happening right now. I think the second quarter probably has just started, but it also may be in a commercial break still.
Well, I'll say that you this segment started the same way Michael Porter Jr. did, and then I'm guessing that he's going to have several missed shots. He's going to revert to the mean, and by the end we'll go, oh yeah, that's what happens with Michael Porter Jr. sometimes, and then the connection will all be legitimate. Yeah. Great start.
Always good.
Kind of fizzled out. Just at this point, honestly, I'm just glad that neither one of you.
It's the middle of the second quarter. Sorry, I'll pull it up. I'm pulling up the box score. Now.
Unnecessary clarification. I had a joke.
You know.
I don't care. I don't give a bleep.
I'm gonna let you know.
I was ramping up to a joke, Rudy.
He's still 17 points.
Rudy had a joke.
I'm turning his mic halfway down.
I was there. Could you not hear my voice that I was ramping up for the joke? I had the Discman. It was ready. I was there.
Didn't seem like a good joke.
I hadn't said it yet.
It was at the expense of me and the Nuggets. Didn't seem very good.
Much like Michael Porter Jr., one thing you guys share in common is honestly at this point, I'm just glad that neither of you are dealing with a debilitating back injury.
Yeah, my back might be worse than his. Still 8 for 8.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Sorry, I got distracted because I have the Facebook comments open now, so they come in live. It's distracting. Renee says that her dog keeps pawing at her phone. She's either loving the show or trying to make it stop.
With Joshua Brisco.
Listen, if you're listening to the show with your dog, please let us know how your dog is enjoying or hating the show.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm officially just doing mock drafts during the show now.
Yeah.
That's what we've gotten.
That was me last year. I really haven't done that this year that much, but that was me last year. Had a couple weeks leading up to the draft. It was just constantly just mock draft.
I traded back, and I've taken 3 consecutive offensive linemen.
Get a tackle, guard, and center. 2 tackles and a center?
2 tackles and a center.
I like it.
Or 2 tackles and an interior lineman.
offensive lineman.
How many picks do the Chiefs have this year?
7
as of
or
right
is it, or is it 8?
now.
Or is it 8
running
actually?
backs.
Might be 8.
It's 8 right now.
Yeah, because
8 straight running backs.
You're counting now.
I do kind of want the Chiefs to late in the draft Khalil Herbert, just because it's just funny how former Kansas football player Khalil Herbert got so good once he left Kansas. Sorry, Kansas.
Oh, I just had 2 picks, like 1 spot apart. Guess I'm taking back-to-back. No, I'm not taking back-to-back receivers.
Tennessee got Rashad Bateman.
So frustrating.
Bateman and A.J. Brown together.
Fictional mock draft.
Second round kicker. Let's go.
Don't worry, Najee Harris is still available. Beards, I'll get him.
I've thought about going through and doing the thing where I just take running backs with every single pick, and I've just refused to do it.
Yeah, I get it.
So I moved back. Liam Eichenberg,
Because
Quig
you think
Miners,
that's what's going to happen?
Stone Forsythe, 1, 2, 3, Josh Palmer, Paris Ford, Sage Surratt. That's a mock. Brett Veach, call me. I'm here. I'll do it. I gotta do the second and third days from the station.
913-3-810-810.
I mean, you could just text Rudy. His number is 913. Well, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.